Okay. So yeah, I wanted to say hi to everyone. This is a nice, intimate, small group here. So we'll stay on mute during the presentation. If you have a question, if something comes to you, type it into the chat, and then we'll stop at point, like partway through when it makes sense to stop and take the questions that have come up. Let's see, what else do I need to tell you? We are recording this just so everyone knows. It's going to go on our YouTube channel for folks that aren't able to make the meeting. And we've got a really good program for you here tonight. Normally, I'm going to wait a minute here until see if Julianne answers me, but this program probably a lot of you have seen things in the Palm and Pine newsletter or emails about or just in the news about the effort by California for 30 by 30 to get to 30% of the land and waters conserved by 2030. And the program tonight is really a good example of what can happen when there is funding from the state, which we are working hard to find out how much there's going to be, how it's going to be divided up, and how it's going to work. But this Anna's program is really something as far as talking about what happens when there is funding for land acquisition, land management, and that kind of thing. So I'm going to do a quick introduction here, and then we'll get right into the program. So Anna Buechler, I'm not sure if I'm saying that right, is a third-year student at Cal Poly San Luis Obispo. She's majoring in environmental earth and soil science. And her upbringing in Lake Arrowhead, California, surrounded by nature, gave her a passion for the environment, which she's now using as an intern for the San Bernardino Mountains Land Trust. She's a summer trail coordinator. And we're going to hear all about what a trail coordinator does in a short summer and how much she accomplishes. So she loves hiking, backpacking, rock climbing, and all that goes well with her passion for soil and all things nature. So with that, Anna, you want to go right into your program?
Definitely. Thank you so much for that introduction.
Great.
Let me just share my screen real quickly so you guys can see all the pretty pictures I put up here.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for having me. Can everybody see what I have on the screen? Okay, thank you so much. So, as Marianne just said, I'm Anna Buechler, a third-year student at Cal Poly with a major in environmental earth and soil science and a minor in rangeland management. And I am very excited to be the summer trail coordinator for the San Bernardino Mountain Land Trust, an entity that works up here in the San Bernardino Mountains where I grew up. And I'm just very happy to be able to work with them because I've grown up walking on their properties and seeing the work they've done, and it's been an inspiration to me. So let me just tell you a little about them. So the San Bernardino Mountain Land Trust is actually a grassroots group. They evolved from a small group of residents coming together and preserving the headwaters at Deep Creek. The picture on the left, though not the area they preserved, is a section of Deep Creek I've visited. I grew up hiking and playing in those streams, and it's wonderful to know that they started out protecting one of the most ecologically important places in my neck of the woods. They were created in 1996, and they've already protected more than 15,000 acres in the San Bernardino Mountains. They're committed to the permanent protection of the mountain's ecologically important land. Oh, I'm so sorry. Someone's mic is on. Sharon, I'm so sorry. Your mic is on. Okay, cool. And so here's some pictures of just the beauty of the mountain that the San Bernardino Mountain Land Trust strives to protect. Some scenic forest. Though this is not meadowland, it's very pretty, and there's the arrowhead that kind of starts Lake Arrowhead, So the Land Trust is an organization that works all by themselves. They're a collaborative organization. They work with places like the Forest Service, the Wildlands Conservancy, the Big Bear Education Trust, which you might know from the Eagle Cam, various volunteers that make their work possible, the NRCS, which is the Natural Resources Conservation Service, and the IERCD, which is a similar thing in the Inland Empire. Some of these agencies, so with these agencies and donation, the Land Trust is able to buy land through the revolving acquisition fund. So this is just a bank account that they're able to use to buy land immediately instead of having to wait like the Forest Service does for funding. They use their revolving acquisition fund to buy land in a very competitive market, which is the San Bernardino Mountains. I just have a nice picture of an overview of Lake Arrowhead, and there's Big Bear, all part of this beautiful place up here in Southern California. Their goal is to protect land, be it an intermediate to turn into national forest, which they've recently done with their property called Coyote Ridge, or to put it into a conservation easement and then be able to sell it, which they've recently done with their Strawberry Peak property, which is pretty awesome that they're able to do that. They also own and manage several properties themselves, which I'm going to tell you about. So also here's just a little bit of an overview of this, where the San Bernardino Mountains are, if you're unfamiliar, like Arrowhead, where Arrowhead Ridge is up here in the corner, and then Big Bear Lake, where our next property is. The Sawmills Pebble Plain Ecological Preserve. It may not look that special when you first look at it, but this is a very unique and important habitat. Though not covered by beautiful trees like you see in the scenic forests around us, this pebble plain is nothing short of spectacular. It has these beautiful low-lying plants that are endangered or threatened, such as the Southern Mountain Buckweed, the Bear Valley Sandwort, which is threatened, and then Indian Paintbrush, which most people know. Though this area is lacking trees, it's nothing short of spectacular. You might be thinking, how does this happen? What is a pebble plain? Well, pebble plains are created by the uplift of quartzite pebbles during a process called frost heaving, which happened during the Ice Age. They're flat and lacking in trees, and so the naked eye, they're not as interesting, and they're a very easy place for development. You don't need to cut down trees, and the quartzite pebbles are kind of like gravel, so they're easy to cement over, which makes them places that get developed and sadly disappear. Another problem they face is off-roading vehicles, who can easily just go on and kind of crush all the beautiful flowers and flora and fauna that are in this area. The San Bernardino Land Trust had their eye on this property for a long time. Way back in 1989, 2 years after their creation, they thought, we need to protect these places. They're beautiful and they're unique, so let's do it. And it took them a long time, but in 2014, they acquired 166 acres up in Big Bear. And then in 2016, they acquired 239 more acres, both adjacent to the already protected 300 acres of Forest Service land. To give you a little visual of this, I have two maps. This one gives you some more property things. The one that I like better is this one. So the orange part is owned by us, the San Bernardino Mountain Land Trust. And that green part is Horseshoe Pebble Plains on that property, which we protect. The blue is all owned by the United States Forest Service. Again, that green is Pebble Plains on their land, and that connects to our Pebble Plains on the land owned by us in front. But the San Bernardino Land Trust doesn't just stop at protecting the lands. They decided to create a way to use them that protects and allows people to utilize the land in a safe way with a group of amazing volunteers who work so hard. The community really said, we care about this land, we want to help out, and they work so hard to create a trail system on this land that people can utilize and enjoy. They put up fences so there would be less off-roading vehicle problems, as well as slashing areas that had the off-road vehicle problems to dissuade people from driving on these beautiful lands. And now we barely have any off-road vehicle problems, and we have a beautiful and wonderful trail system up there. And here's just a view from the Pebble Plains that I think is just great. And so I would like to include it to show off the beauty of Big Bear. But the San Bernardino Pebble Plains is not the only place that we have property. Metcalf Meadow Preserve. That is the smallest property the Land Trust manages, but by no means is it the least important. If you've lived up here a long time, you might remember the old drive-in movie theater in Big Bear. Well, that lasted until 1977, and some remnants is still found on the property today. You might notice there's some bumps right by that building. Well, those were where the cars used to drive up on that meadow to watch the big screen, which is quite funny. They're still there. After it was a movie theater, it turned into a real estate office, and I think it acquired its most important and best title in 2015 when it became a protected meadow. The Land Trust received a grant from the Wildlife Conservation Board where they were able to purchase and protect this land. This meadow is home to many endangered species, such as the bird-footed checkerbloom seen here, a very pretty little plant that needs a little bit more water, so it likes meadows, as well as the San Bernardino bluegrass and California dandelion. The building on this property is actually being currently renovated so that it will maybe one day be housing for San Bernardino Land Trust employees, and the shed next to it will hopefully one day be a tree farm that will help reforest our forest in catastrophes such as bark beetle or forest fire, supplying entities with trees that are not only the type of trees that grow up here, but have the genetic properties that our trees have to help them thrive up here in the mountains. Though this property is too small for a trail system, its value is no less. It is utilized by wild animals such as bears and bobcats and deer, and it backs up to national forest and goes all the way to the lake, which means it can be an intermediate for animals to travel from the national forest to the lake and get back. And it's one of the open spaces still around the lake. As you know, Southern California, lots of development. So that is our Metcalf Meadows Preserve. We've spent hours making sure we don't have people driving on this soil, as the water in the soil and the aggregate's going to be crushed by large vehicles driving over them. So we've put in fences and worked very hard to preserve and protect this beautiful meadow. The property I'm most excited about to share is the Arrowhead Ridge property. So the Arrowhead Ridge property was originally a part of the National Forest, but it was traded to the Nature Conservancy, and then the Nature Conservancy. It was originally part of the National Forest, but the National Forest doesn't really like owning land really, really close to housing communities as Arrowhead Ridge is now. So it was traded to the Nature Conservancy and sold on the open market. And due to that, it was acquired by a developer and was slated for development, even after large community uproar. And then in 2011, the Land Trust bought the first 80 acres of Arrowhead Ridge. And that was no small task of work for them to put in, because it was definitely an ecological disaster. I was talking to my mom about when Arrowhead Ridge was when it was abandoned, basically. And she says, I remember driving by the highway, what we call a highway, and looking over and just seeing trash and debris and erosion and being so disheartened. And it is disheartening. And that's why we're so grateful to have somebody like the San Bernardino Mountain Land Trust come in and decide that they're going to pick up the pieces and protect and fix this land. And it was no easy task. After first acquiring Arrowhead Ridge, they spent hundreds of hours removing 40 truckloads of construction debris, which you can see here, some of the construction debris they got rid of. They also got rid of some buildings on the property that would incur vandalism and maybe squatting. They just wanted to get rid of that so there wasn't any problems in the future for them. They also had to get rid of got rid of dozens of 20-foot long degraded plastic piping, which was hard work, but it was made all possible by volunteers like this who stepped up and really helped out. And we, again, are a small group, but we're mighty because we have people in our community who gather around us. The Land Trust faced erosion issues from all the things happening at Arrowhead Ridge. And so they had to go in and do some recontouring of the hill as seen here. They're recontouring the hill to kind of help out with those erosion issues. Again, another picture of that recontouring they had to do. It was very important to fix those erosion issues as Arrowhead Ridge is right next to one of the highways we have up here, one of the only 40 miles per hour roads. So if that got eroded and all the way up the highway, that would be a bad thing. They went on and put in wood chips to cover up that area so there would be less erosion, all just about controlling that erosion that was going on. And here's some pictures of that, as well as doing replanting of several species that live up here in the mountain. And this has been wildly successful. When you go to Arrowhead Ridge today, though there are still some erosion issues, you can see the sprouts they've planted growing into bigger saplings, and you can see the hills regaining all that vegetation that they had lost. But they weren't done there. They decided, okay, we're going to fix this up, but we're not going to close it off and stop people from coming to this beautiful place. We're going to actually make it better. So after the passing of a wonderful volunteer named Will Abel, they created the Will Abel Memorial Trail, which is in honor of him. It's a 2-mile trail that was hard work for the Land Trust to create. It was created both by volunteers, as you can see here, putting in some hard work, and then they called in the Urban Conservation Corps to create the rest of the trail. This 2-mile trail is wonderful as it allowed people to explore those first 80 acres, go into some touched land that's being fixed, and go into the beautiful land behind that's still untouched, and just explore and have a wonderful times. But this isn't the only project that's happened at Arrowhead Ridge. There has been a Boy Scout project to create this beautiful in remembrance of our veterans, which they sometimes host Veterans Day and services at, which I've actually been to. It's a really wonderful place to honor our veterans at. They also thought of a creative way to raise money as well as honor people who work for the Land Trust or support businesses. They have the donor wall, so you can donate and get a plaque on your wall. So right here, you can see someone like Arrowhead Patrol and Security donated, and now they have a little bit of have some advertising, and then several people who have worked for the Land Trust and are very important to us are on this wall as well. And it's a great way to raise money as well as support your family and support people. I just think it's really awesome. So after this, they didn't give up. They didn't just say, okay, we have 80 acres, we're good. No, they kept fighting to get more of that land to protect it. And in 2021, they got the remaining 94 acres of Arrowhead Ridge. So there's some pits and pockets that are still unowned by the Land Trust. This is a plant that is growing from the concrete. I just thought it was really cool, some of the regenerative growth that's happening on this property and some of the old growth that's still there. This is my first time doing trail management. So I thought, okay, where do you start? Well, I started by learning because I didn't know anything, so I needed to learn. And I watched tons of lectures from American Trails to learn about trail management and trail enhancement and how to manage and do all this work that I was going to be doing. Next, we need to figure out what were our goals, like just the biggest, broadest goals we could have. Okay, our goals are to create a trail system that utilizes these new 94 acres that's both longer and easier to understand, incorporating all this land we have now. And we want to change our trail system from just 2 miles to 5. So that's a lot, but we'll take it slow. We'll start by discussing issues that are plaguing our trails now that we want to fix this summer. Okay, we have tourists getting lost. We don't want that to happen. Having to walk down the main road, or wandering around the trail system confused. We don't want that. So we want to try to fix that. We have user created trails that lead people in the wrong way or to habitats of endangered species, such as the California rubber boa right here. We want to protect this little guy. So we want to make sure people don't wander into his habitat and disturb these rocky outcroppings that it calls home. We also have the spotted owl. We don't want people to disturb them, or the San Bernardino flying squirrel. So after figuring out these things, we started by hiking. What's better than seeing the property that you're using? So we hiked around, we bushwhacked, we got hit in the face with a few trees, figuring out where we were going. But we eventually figured out what way we wanted to go. And during all of this, we used GIS to map our location so we could go back and make a map out of all this data. If you don't know what GIS is, it means it is a geographic information system, which allows you to do mapping and such, which is what we're really using it for. After that, I needed to create a trail management plan. I've never created a trail management plan before, so I was a little scared, but thankfully the Land Trust had a template from Coyote Ridge to help me out. With this template from a previous project, I kind of knew what to base it off around, and I was able to figure out what types of things we wanted in our trail and what types of things we wanted to avoid. Okay, what do we want? A trail with less than 10% slope when possible, a trail that favored open areas with views people were naturally drawn to, a place that addressed the signage issues that we were having, a place with benches for people to rest. Okay, how do you put a bench into the woods? Well, we had an idea of, they use nature benches at the Land Trust, which are really cool. It's where you find a big log, a tree that's dead, or a log that's been on the ground, and then you move it and you turn it into a nature bench, you cut it out, you stain it, and it's beautiful and rustic and natural. And we don't have to bring plastic into the woods, which is nice. And then we thought, okay, are there any long-term projects we can't do this summer that we want people to know about? Let's address that. And we did. So we maybe want to put water bars in areas that we find having erosion still in the future. There's some areas that are there's communities around this trail, which is awesome. So they can get easy access. We have access points for them. But sadly, some of those points are pretty steep. We can't make the trail loop more because people will just keep going up the steep area. It would defeat the purpose. So we want to create these type of stairs so that they're like longer, they're like kind of stairs, but kind of not. And so it's not as steep when they're walking up. But we can't do that in one summer. So we're going to put that in the project and put that on the back burners for now. This plan gave me and many others at the Land Trust a base to build off of, guidelines to use, containing information about how we wanted this trail to be, so we could buy the basis for the whole project. And it could also be used by future generations managing the property or government entities that want to know how we're managing this trail. They want to know that we have erosion control in mind, that we're thinking of that from the previous owner, how we are aware of trail cutting and we want to decrease it, how we have a plethora of user-based trails and we want to make it to one focused trail plan, and trails that are easy to use but not as confusing. This plan had an emphasis on protecting native wildlife. As you've just seen, the California rubber boa was in our mind. We want to protect them. We want to protect the spotted owl. We want to protect the San Bernardino flying squirrel and the habitats that they use. And we want to put that emphasis in our trail plan. And it also had just normal species out there, all the trees that we had on the property, the normal ones, as well as just normal animals such as bears and deers that utilize this property as well. We also want to think about protecting our property from invasive species. So we had the non-native plants in mind, such as the bull thistle, the cheatgrass, Spanish broom, sweet clover. We want to know, hey, these are on our properties. They could be an issue in the future. Look out for them. And if they get out of hand, here's how you handle it. So we started our work. I created a plan of priorities, a list of things that needed to get done this summer, and we rolled up our sleeves and we started. Every Tuesday from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m., we got out there and we worked on the trail. So one of our first projects was lining this section of the trail. Previously, it was kind of just an open space and you might be like, oh, maybe I'll wander over here. Maybe I'll wander over there, but now it's lined. You know which way to go. You have a sign that's now there. Oh, trail, that's helpful. So we tried to put in more signage to help people out. We had some overgrown areas because plants, they grow, and sometimes they grow where trails are because they are plants and they don't know where trails are. So we went and we said, okay, this area is overgrown. I don't want to be hit in the face anymore. And we trimmed it back. So here, before, after trimming, this isn't the final picture. Unfortunately, I forgot to take that, but it looks much better now. And then sadly, because this property had not been owned by us for a while, and there were some Forest Service / like roads from fire abatement, people had brought in garbage. And that happens, and we try our best to get rid of it. So we moved this couch all the way down from a steep hill and this mattress, and we took it out because we don't want trash in our woods. And that was just we just had to do that. Every time you go out, you bring a trash bag, you collect lots of things. It's like treasure hunting. We also had to think about, oh, it's this new path. Do we need to clear trees or is there anything in the way? And so we had people with chainsaws out there, well, just one person, and we cleared the path from any fallen debris from big storms, or we cut down hazard trees which could fall on the path and hurt people in the future. As you can see, we've put in more signage. This is not our permanent signage because that's still it's still getting made, but some temporary signage to help people out because people can get lost in the woods if they're unfamiliar and we want to help them find their way. Next, we did some slashing. So slashing is when you cover up a trail because it goes to a place that's either not owned by us. There's a few places on the property still unowned by us we don't want to encourage people on, or it goes to habitat of things like the rubber boa, and we don't want people over there because we want to protect them. Or it's just really confusing. So here's an example of some slashing we've done. We've done way more than this and way better slashing than this, but that's the only picture I had. We also refurbished and put in kiosks, which we're going to put our maps on with a nice "you are here" so people can figure out where they're going. And on the back of the kiosks, we are going to put information about us, the San Bernardino Mountain Land Trust, animals and plants in our area, as well as Native Americans and the uses they've used for this land for hundreds of generations. Doing all this work, I've learned who this land is for. It's for the animals and plants that call it home, and it's for the community that walk with their dogs, and it's for the tourist who just wants to enjoy nature. And I've really enjoyed getting to know the people who use this land, people from as close as down the street to as far away as Long Beach. And it's just wonderful. And this land has been used for a long time, way back in 1979. We have children out here using Arrowhead Ridge, walking on some of the beautiful trees that we have. Though this one has fallen down, obviously. So trail work isn't just about moving logs and clearing paths. It's about engaging with your community and showing them that they're cared about and giving them an opportunity to give back and giving back to them. I just want to thank you for giving me this opportunity and thank all the volunteers that make all our work possible. If you want to do something or help out the Land Trust, you can start by enjoying our trails, go hiking. And while you're out there, maybe pick up some trash. If you'd like, you can buy a flagstone plaque or become a member of the San Bernardino Mountain Land Trust. We also are supported by the Mountain Thrift Shop, so you can go there. You can help us by using Amazon Smile or buying one of our several books seen here. on the side, Trees in San Bernardino Mountains. They're nice books, wildflowers. And if you want to know more about us, this slide's a little messed up, but it did have our website, which I can post in the chat. It's just sbmlt.com. Our Instagram, which is sbml Land Trust. And then our Facebook, you just look up San Bernardino Mountain Land Trust and you'll find us. And I am excited to take any questions you might have. Thank you for letting me chat at you for a while.
Hey, we've got a lot of questions, Anna. Let me just start by reading a few, and Carla has chimed in the chat, but I wanted to put the questions to you also. Tell us about starting back in Big Bear. What's the best place to park for the trailhead for the Pebble Plains? Are there parking problems? Are there things that we should be aware of? What's the best way for us to access that?
So the Pebble Plains does have limited parking. I think Carla might have a better answer for that because I'm not as familiar with Big Bear as I probably should be. I don't know the exact location.
Yeah, I can chime in here.
Yes.
Yeah, so if you do a Google map search for Villa Grove Road, at the very dead end of Villa Grove Road and Sunny Slope, there is parking. It can accommodate maybe, I don't know, 8 to 10 cars along that area. And that's where the trail starts for the Pebble Plain Ecological Preserve.
Wonderful photos, by the way, Anna. I love the beauty of the small wildflowers there in Pebble Plain. Same thing about Metcalf. Can you describe for our audience where the Metcalf Meadow is in Big Bear? How to access it?
I'm unsure if we allow people to access that property because it is quite small, but I think if Carla wants to chime in on that.
Yeah, I can chime in on that one.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, we do have like an RV park, an RV mobile home park that's right next to Metcalf Meadow. And we do have a very short trail, maybe a couple 100 yards, and it goes along the aspen grove on the east side of the property. So you can access and check out the aspen grove. It's beautiful in the fall time when the aspens change color. It's one of the biggest, actually it is the biggest aspen grove in the Big Bear area. So I definitely recommend checking that out. But as far as walking on the meadow, we do discourage that because we do have the endangered species that we are protecting in the meadow.
Kind of a follow-up to that. I've done business over at City Hall, which is kind of right next door. I wonder if there's any way to connect that, because I know, sometimes you've done business all day in the building and you just want to get a breath of fresh air. I wonder if there's any way to kind of hook up that City Hall parking area to Metcalf, which is the old outdoor movie theater. Any chance of like hooking it up or letting people know that are doing business or going to the theater at the City Hall complex that they can walk over to Metcalf, because it's right there and it's such a pretty open space.
Yeah, there is the Happy Hills Trail right next to the City Hall. Oh. And then right next to that would be the mobile home RV park that I mentioned.
Right.
And then Metcalf is right after that. So there is no connector trail at this time, but there has been talk of connecting the trail, but it would have to go through other private property. So that it's something we may consider for the future. But for right now, you can access the Metcalf Meadow area at the Aspen Grove.
Nice. Beautiful. Go ahead.
I was just going to say thank you for Carla. She knows so much. It's really wonderful to work with her.
You guys are both super. This is a question for Anna. What's been your biggest challenge in creating and managing the trail over in Arrowhead?
It's just that people have been using that trail for a long time and they're stuck in their ways. It can be hard to change people's paths, especially when we're trying to divert them from areas that contain native species that we want to protect, or just properties we don't own. And I just try to handle that one with grace and talk to people kindly and just tell them what we're doing. Obviously, we can't change everyone, but we're just trying our best to protect the native species and the properties that aren't ours in that area. Other than that, it's been pretty easy, other than like moving heavy things, which is just hard because I'm a smaller person, but it's been a nice workout. So I guess that's been the hardest thing, but you have to handle that with grace and just be kind and explain people, because I think education is the best way to stop issues.
Absolutely. Lots of other questions. How long will the Arrowhead Trail be? And do you have any plans for putting all the info about the native species like the rubber boa, the spotted owl, or the flying squirrel onto kiosks or information boards at the trailhead? Because that sounds like something people would want to know. And is the trail on Google Maps or all trails?
So we are hoping that with all our spurs and connectors, the trail will be overall 5 miles. And then we are definitely going to put infos about the spotted owl, rubber boa, and flying squirrels on our kiosk, though we don't know which one yet, as we have 3 on the property. Probably the first one, because that's probably the most interesting information to have as you're walking through. And then we are on Google Maps and all trails. You can look up the Will Able Memorial Trail and we'll pop right up. We're the first thing on Google Maps if you look that up. So that's pretty easy to find. If you're like making sure you're in the right place, we're right across from a golf course. So if you're right across from the golf course, then there's us. And there's a big sign in front saying the Arrowhead Ridge property. So you'll see it.
And how do you spell Will Able again? Is it WILLABEL?
I can put that in the chat. It's it's Will and then ABALL. There's 2 L's on the Able part.
Okay. ABALL. Okay.
I mean ABELL.
Got it. Okay. I'm typing it in right now.
And let me make sure that I'm. Yes. And then it comes up as Will Able Memorial Trail at Arrowhead Ridge on Grass Valley Road.
Brilliant. Let's see. Still more questions. Any chance that the land trust will be conducting a docent tour of the new trail? It'd be fascinating to have somebody familiar with the local flora and fauna kind of lead a hike. So any chance of that?
I don't know, but I would be down to do that.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
we could probably coordinate that. And I would love to be a docent. I felt like one the other day, actually, people came up to me asking questions. And I was like, oh, do you want to know the history of this trail? And they were like, sure. And I was like, okay, I'm going to tell you.
Yeah, it's a great story. I think people would be all fascinated, and there's a lot going on there in terms of native species too. Just really an interesting place.
Yeah.
I want you to give more of a plug to the land trust books. The handbooks are just fabulous. Can you tell us a little bit more about where people can get those and a little bit more about the books? Wildflowers and Trees of San Bernardino Mountains.
I think that's more Carla's department. I actually didn't know about them until I just did this presentation.
Okay, yeah, I'll chime in on this one. So sometimes the books can be found on Amazon, but you can also go to the Heaps Peak Arboretum in Sky Forest, and they have an information center there, usually open on the weekends, and they also sell the books.
Oh, great. Excellent. Yeah, I think I picked up my copies back in the day at the Discovery Center. I don't know if they still have the little book corner there, but they have been wonderful guidebooks for the area. Anyway, people are just really enjoying the presentation, Anna. So thank you.
I have a question.
Lots of nice comments.
I have a question.
Yeah, there's a couple more questions here. Oh, go ahead, Chris.
Oh, yeah. Anna, you were talking about how you used the blueprint for Coyote Ridge. as the one that you were using to go by, since you had never done trail management plan before, and you were using that. So my question is, I'm not familiar with that either, Coyote Ridge. So that's an existing trail up there. Can you tell me something about that? Is that
Yes.
the San Bernardino Mountains Land Trust did also?
So we owned Coyote Ridge until I think a couple years ago, where we have transferred it into the National Forest. So now it's part of the National Forest, but I believe the trails that we have built on Coyote Ridge still exist, and you can go there. If you want to know the exact location, that'd be more Carla's department, because they transferred Coyote Ridge away before I joined the team this summer. So that I think that was last year or the year before that they gave it to the National Forest. Not gave it, but like the National Forest bought it and added it to the forest. It's right next to the children's forest, I believe.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'll chime in here. Some people referred to it as Coyote Rock, and it's connected to the Children's Forest. That's the road, the Killer Peak Road that goes up to the Children's Forest. It's just adjacent to that. And there is I want to say like a trail system on there that connects to the Forest Service trail system. But we did put in that particular trail system, and that trail system actually starts right behind the Charles Hoffman Elementary School.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I
And-
see one more question in the chat here. Is there or will there be a map available on the new trail at Arrowhead Ridge? Is that something in your plans?
Yes, actually, I literally was on the phone with one of our board members, Craig. He's a GIS specialist, and we will be creating the map hopefully in the next 2 or 3 weeks. It will be done by at least the second week of September, because that's the end of that's when I have to go back to school. So it has to be done by then. Right now, we're just in the development phase, as we just got a kiosk in. So now we have the size of the map we're going to do. And hopefully by in the next 2 weeks, we'll have it done. And it will be hopefully on our website and definitely at our trailheads.
Great, thank you.
Final question for Anna, and Carla, maybe you can chime in also. But Anna, given your experience with kind of clearing out the area in Arrowhead, for those of us that have properties nearby that are maybe something that could be ripe for 30 by 30 preservation, how does one go about starting, the process of working with the county or working with other entities to start thinking about preserving it, and just something as simple as getting rid of bulky items and dumping. The Corona Hills are right behind my home down here in the Riverside area, and we've got a section that it would be wonderful to have it preserved, but the starting point, I think, is just stopping the dumping. Do you have any thoughts about that?
I don't know much about preserving land yet, but I do know about dumping. What we've done at Arrowhead Ridge is just create obstacles so cars can't get back into areas where dumping is pretty common. So when trees fall in areas like the beginning of the roads, instead of like taking the whole tree out, we only cut a small person-sized slit in it so that a car can't drive through. We also try really hard to make it so people can't do chainsaws through those trees and drive through. So we put like nails in the trees so that people can't chainsaw them through. We also just like, the more your property is like used for hiking, the less people want to dump on it because more people are out there. But like, other than that, that's all I really know. I bet Carla knows much more about trying to get rid of that issue because she's dealt with it a lot more than I have.
Yeah, we've had a lot of issues on our properties. Usually right before we acquire them, we do large cleanups. And usually we get a group of volunteers, usually community members, and we'll connect with the disposal entity that's in the area. Sometimes they'll donate like a roll-off dumpster that we can fill up. We also work with the Southern California Mountains Foundation, and they will pick up old tires. So if there's tires out in the forest, They don't question where it came from, but if it's something that you remove out of the forest, they will come out and remove old tires, which are very hard to dispose of. And mainly, it's kind of usually a volunteer, kind of a grassroots project to clean something up. I would definitely recommend the owner be notified. You don't want to be going on somebody else's property unless the owner gives you permission. So I don't know who owns the property, but they would be your first contact to see what the community can do to help them remove the illegally dumped items.
Great tips, really great tips.
But it's hard. Dumping is everywhere. I mean, I get it in the national forest right behind my house, and sometimes I just go out there and clean it up because it just makes me so sad.
Right.
Is there any signage like with county ordinance or city ordinance or something that's
Yes.
legal dumping and fines and stuff? Not that that deters people who don't even give,
Mhm.
but but still, I don't know if some of that's up. And speaking of signage, I also had a question about when these trails are more built out, the Arrowhead Ridge Trail and stuff. I know you showed the one picture with the sign that had the trail and the arrow, but also I guess will there be some signage maybe that says please stay on trail to protect sensitive areas and stuff? Not that
Yeah.
it's going to help, necessarily for the people who don't give a darn, but it might help to a certain extent. And I know some places have that type of signage and stuff. So,
Well, great minds think alike, because I've already ordered those restoration area and process stay on trail signs. Hopefully they'll be coming in the next few weeks and we'll be able to put them out. It's a great idea, and I do hope it does deter some of that going onto people's properties and going into habitat we really want to protect.
that's great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Where'd you get the signs? I mean, where are good resources for, handsome signs like that are kind of professionally done?
We're really lucky. Actually, Carla's father is a master woods worker, and he makes all those really beautiful signs. We're just lucky having him, I guess.
Yeah.
Not everybody is as lucky as that to
Yeah.
have someone awesome.
Yeah. Nice going, you guys. I mean, they're good looking signs.
All right, well, Anna, this has just been a really, really enjoyable presentation. You've done just such an excellent job of laying out the story, which is a great story for when you think about 30 by 30 that we've been talking about so much. And right now, the state legislature is figuring out how to dole out like anywhere from $500 million to $1 billion in funding for acquiring land, protecting land, increasing access, equitable access. The 30 by 30 project is in the works, and some of that money will go through the normal conservation funders, and we will be fighting to get more for San Bernardino Mountains Land Trust if that's something that we're able to do. But I think this is an excellent example that gives people, the real story of what can happen if funding is available, and there's an excellent organization like the Land Trust that will not only buy it and protect it, but then make it when it makes sense, not when it's sensitive area, of course, but in a place like this, make it accessible, understandable, and all these important things like the signs and making it clear where you should go and where you shouldn't. So I really want to thank you for doing this, and everybody seems to have enjoyed this a lot.
Well,
Yes,
thank you.
I love your enthusiasm and your knowledge. It's just awesome. I'm disappointed that more people did not sign up to be part of this, but I will let people know, I do let people know about the San Gorgonio's chapter's YouTube channel where these recorded presentations get posted, but I will let people know that they missed something by watching this and they need to at least watch the recording of it on the YouTube channel.
Well, thank you so much. I had a really wonderful time being here. It was nice to be in a more intimate setting. I was a little scared for 75 people.
Well, this is good.
Yeah, it's been good practice.
Good practice for next time, because I think we will offer this to a larger audience of the chapter and other folks that are interested in our 30 by 30 campaign. So
I
thank you.
just wanted to jump in really quick. I'm Liz Ann. I'm new to the area. And one of the first things I did was get in touch with the Land Trust because I backpack and I'm an outdoor person as well. You just did a beautiful job and I learned a lot just by joining tonight. Thanks a lot.
You're
Well,
welcome.
welcome. Yeah, welcome to the area. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think we will call it a night, and thank you everyone for attending.
Night,
and
everybody.
watch for the, remember our YouTube channels there, and keep an eye on our website for not only these events, but also for our outings calendar of hikes and trips and camping trips and those kinds of things. So make sure you look up San Gorgonio. If you just Google Sierra Club San Gorgonio chapter, you'll find our website, and the outings and events page has our these meetings as well as our volunteer-led outings to a number of different places. So,
Oh, Marianne, before we sign
Yes.
off, just to plug the next
month.
two
Yes.
Trail Talks, we have two different types of topics. Next month is going to be Western Municipal Water District trustee Gracie Torres is going to be lecturing on Inland Water 101 and important water sites in the Sierra Club San Gorgonio chapter. So it's going to be about water, which is very pertinent during our current drought, our mega drought right now. So something to learn about water in our area, our chapter. And then we're going to be hearing about from Joe Amador, our own Joe, our outings leader, hiking the Camino in Europe will be the October Trail Talk. He is an intrepid trekker and hiker in places outside the United States. And so he's going to be talking about the famous hike on the Camino in France and in Spain and Portugal. So that will be the third Wednesday of the month in September, which will be the 21st. And then in October, it will be the 19th. So tune in. Both should be interesting, just like tonight. So and we have lots of different topics coming up. So Anna, thank you again. Thank you so much for your sincerity and for your enthusiasm, and love the work.
Well, thanks for putting up with me talking just a little bit too fast.
Oh, no, it's good.
You did
Great.
fine.
Did a great
Thank you.
job. Good night, everybody.
Good night, everyone.
Yeah. Thank you, Anna.
Bye-bye.
You did a wonderful job.
Yeah.
Take care, everybody.
Yeah. Good night.
Good night.
Night.